When I first moved from the United States of America to the Netherlands, I thought I had arrived in a utopian society, or at least as close to a utopian society as one could reasonably expect to get. Well, while I was in the Netherlands, my girlfriend's older brother, who is Dutch, took a trip with his girlfriend to Finland. Now, to my knowledge, this was both of their first times being in Finland. And I didn't know anything about Finland, so I was very curious to hear about their experience in Finland. And while I didn't get a chance to directly discuss their experience with them, what I do know is that by the time they got back, and they were there for all of maybe 5 days to a week at the absolute most, by the time they got back to the Netherlands, my girlfriend's brother was absolutely 100% adamant that he wanted to move to Finland. Now, mind you, just for context, not to put their business out there or anything like that, but they had just finished building a brand new house, basically from scratch. So this man was prepared to get rid of that house, go and get new licensing so that he can transfer his work over to Finland and literally start his life completely over in a new country, just like I did. And that got me thinking, how nice is Finland? And furthermore, why does Finland, a country that gets probably 4 hours of sunlight a day in the winter, consistently rank at the top of the World Happiness Index year after year after year? Well, in this video, I am going to find out the reason why that is, because I will be reacting to why is Finland so happy.
Leaders of more than 150 nations gathered here in New York City this week for the 80th United Nations General Assembly. They debated ways to end wars, disease, and hunger. But any discussion on how to increase the happiness of the world's citizens was not center stage. Happiness is something the UN studies, and earlier this year released its list of the world's happiest countries.
Okay, so this is a pretty interesting list. I noticed that the Nordic countries in general, not even just Finland, but pretty much all of the Nordic countries, consistently dominate this list. I mean, you have Norway at 7, you have Sweden at 4, Iceland at 3, Denmark at 2, and Finland at 1. But the Netherlands is actually here at 5. So again, the Netherlands is very close to a utopian society, but I guess it's not as close as Finland.
Finland topped the list for an 8th consecutive year. So we asked Brooke Silva Braga to find out why.
We came to Finland for 10 days this past July and caught maybe the nicest week of the year. And even then, Finns seem to be thinking of winter.
No daylight at all.
It's long, it's dark.
And also autumn can be a pretty challenging time.
So, just for context, I am just now finishing up this book called The Year of Living Danishly. And the author is from the UK. She moved to Denmark. And a good portion of the book is her talking about how brutal those Danish winters can be on your psyche. Not just because of how cold it gets, but because of how dark it gets and for how long it stays dark throughout the winter months. And look, I'm no geography expert, but it's my understanding that Finland is further north than Denmark, which means that the days would be even shorter in the winter. That is something that honestly, I don't know how I would be able to handle. I genuinely don't know how you can handle that living in the Nordics. I guess to an extent, you can almost argue that those countries have to be extremely livable in order to warrant people enduring those kinds of winter conditions.
Psychologically, and
So if you're wondering how this frequently freezing, decidedly dour group could be the height of happiness, so do the Finns.
When Finland was nominated the happiest country in the world like 8 years ago, I guess the Finnish people were very skeptical about the results. So people were going to the survey and trying to figure out what is wrong with the survey because this cannot be true.
It's been a mistake.
Okay, so I don't know what I was expecting of your average typical Finnish person. Maybe he's not your typical Finnish person, but this is not what I was expecting for sure. I mean, I know that in that part of the world, really everywhere I've been in Europe, and I've only been in Western European countries, But I've also heard this about the Nordics. People generally favor darker colors. Granted, I'm not a fashionista or anything, but this is not that kind of outfit I would expect to see a Finnish person wearing.
Steak.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of mistake.
The mystery of Finnish happiness has spurred its own industry of happiness-seeking tourists and endless happiness books, including this year's Stop Chasing Happiness by Frank Martella, a philosopher and professor.
No, I guess like one key reason is like what they actually are measuring in this World Happiness Report.
The ranking, conducted by the United Nations, is based on a simple question. On a scale of 0 to 10, how close is your life to the best possible life?
Which is a different question than, did you experience joy today or did you smile or laugh today?
So it's not about being joyful, it's about being content.
Yeah, it's more about like being content with your life when you stop to think about it.
So why are Finns so content?
The kind of society we have has been able to take care of the citizens relatively well. There's a 3D printer if you need to print something.
As an example, Martella walked us through Udi, Helsinki's remarkable showpiece library.
I'm not gonna lie, this might be the nicest library I've ever seen. Now granted, I never really spent a whole lot of time in libraries. I'm more of a Kindle person. I'm actually reading The Year of Living Danishly on my Kindle, but this is the kind of place I would go, literally not even to check out books, just to catch a vibe. Just to sit in one of those chairs and enjoy the view and read some interesting philosophy book or something like that. This is a really, really nice library.
So in there's going to be like laser cutter, engraving machine.
Yeah, they're making some pretty cool stuff.
There's a heat press for decorating handbags and a plotter for giant prints. You can borrow a guitar and then take it into a recording studio.
Oh, she's spinning. We got the DJ tables, we got some mics, keys.
The idea is that make sure that everybody has the opportunity to do these kind of things, no matter how much money you yourself have.
So
it's funny, America brands itself as the land of opportunity, but from what I've seen in this video thus far, especially with how many people aspire to be musicians, amongst other things, and from what I've read in The Year of Living Danishly, it seems like the Nordics actually provide a lot more opportunity for upward mobility than the USA does for your average person, because that safety net that you have in the Nordic countries, and I'm kind of grouping you together just because I feel like all of them are more alike than they are different. Let me know if there are some differences between the social safety net systems in the comments below. I almost feel like you don't even have a safety net, you have a trampoline, where even if you fall, it doesn't just catch you, it makes you bounce back up.
yes, the Finnish way is socialized medicine and free college, but just as important, it's a society that knows how to handle the handouts. Public video game controllers can be left out without walking off. Parents confidently send their 5-year-olds alone to the park.
Goes to the park by themselves.
Yes, but I think that in America you don't do that.
Not coincidentally,
No, you don't. That is not something you do in the US. And the author of The Year of Living Danishly did note that in Denmark specifically, it's very typical to leave your stroller with the kid inside of it outside of a store or restaurant while you're inside of it. Let me know if it's like that in Finland as well, because I don't know what the crime statistics are like between the different Nordic countries, but I mean, that level of safety, honestly, I think that's even a step above the Netherlands. And I felt very comfortable and confident walking alone at night in the Netherlands. And that's not just because I'm a grown man. In the US, you can be a grown man and you can get touched up as well. But I felt very safe in the Netherlands. It seems like this is a step above.
public spaces can invite kids to climb without fearing a lawsuit if they fall.
Being kind of happy with the small functioning stuff.
Yeah, what functions?
Basically everything.
One immigrant told us immigrants end up in Finland after Googling safest country in the world.
Yeah.
Tim Bird migrated from the UK in his 20s.
Yeah, I mean, I came here as an English teacher originally. I didn't know anything about Finland.
He liked it enough to stay for more than 40 years now.
This is one of the great things about Helsinki is you're never too far from a natural environment.
Everywhere our family went in Finland, it seemed like a pristine lake and a rowboat were just outside the door.
You want to stop here for a while?
Yeah, sure.
Bird adopted that Finnish love for nature and became a photographer and travel writer.
Water on the rocks there, for example.
Yes, he has a happiness book too. Happy Land comes out in January.
Are there any lessons that can be taken elsewhere, things people can be doing around the world that you've picked up on here?
There's more of an idea of society here, I think. People accept that if you pay taxes, then you're getting something in return.
So that sounds exactly like what the author of The Year of Living Danishly said in her book, where she was basically saying that it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy that people embrace the social safety net and are okay with paying taxes because they know that over a long time horizon, it will benefit them and or their loved ones at some point or another. And because it benefits them, they get that reinforcement that it's a good thing. Whereas in the US, I feel like you're kind of caught in this weird in-between space where there's somewhat of a social safety net, but it's not really enough to catch you a lot of the time. A lot of people kind of slip in between and just hit the ground, hit rock bottom, and never fully recover. Some people do manage to get caught in that net, but they're never able to climb their way back up. And because of that, there's a lot of distrust in the government. And I think that word trust is really the foundational component of what allows a society like this to exist. I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but I feel like trust in your fellow citizens and the general belief that you are surrounded by good people, by well-intentioned people, that is what enables such a peaceful and harmonious society to exist.
And I think that kind of attitude could be picked up more in other countries, as long as you're actually getting something in return, which you do in Finland, to be fair.
There are other theories, though. Maybe the most novel coming from the power of hot and cold.
What was that all about?
Theories, though. Maybe the most novel.
What am I watching? What's going on in this clip?
Coming from the power of hot and cold, which suggests happiness springs in part from the Finnish tradition of sauna. Don't say sauna. They're everywhere in Finland, which...
Sauna. Sauna. Is this a sauna? I literally just said sauna. Is this a sauna in somebody's home? I don't think I've ever seen this before. This is definitely not something you'll see in the US unless the person is literally top 1%.
has more saunas per person than America has passenger cars.
Rolling?
Intrepidly, we embraced the heat and let go of our modesty with Karita Harju, co-author of The Power of Hot and Cold, for our first 140-degree interview.
Well, how?
Is that 140 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius? Because both of them sound equally miserable. Look, I'm not gonna lie. If and when I do visit Finland, I'm going to give this a fair shot. I'm gonna try the sauna just so I can say I've done it. But having grown up in Texas, where it regularly hits, 40 degrees Celsius every single summer for weeks, if not months at a time, and now being here in Southeast Asia, here in Malaysia, where if I just open that window back there, even at nighttime, it literally feels like 140 degrees. I'm not really into heat that much. In fact, I kind of crave the cold of a Finnish winter. Not the darkness, but the cold and the snow. So you're gonna have to sell me on this one.
How about this? You've maybe done this. I've never done anything like this before.
Yeah, this is welcome to Finland.
How often are you doing this?
I do every day.
Every day, really?
At least 5 times a week.
What do you get out of it?
Place to relax both my body and my mind.
I mean, no, you can't bring a phone in here. It would melt.
That's the point.
I'm getting hot. I might be ready to...
Yeah, now we can have a round.
By that, she meant a round of following the heat
Oh, yeah. Okay.
with the cold of the Baltic Sea.
Okay.
I've heard a lot about the benefits of going from hot to cold like that, specifically for athletes. I didn't really know it was something that regular people did. I take cold showers generally, so sometimes I play with the contrast there, but I think I'm a lot more tolerant of cold. If I could swim, I'd probably be more comfortable in this water right here than in the sauna, because I cannot stand heat for the life of me.
Hey, here we are.
You are brave! Which, even at the peak of summer, is barely 50 degrees, triggering a rush of endorphins
So you feel good?
that many Finns have become happily addicted to.
You feel your heart beating? It's the endorphins and all the good hormones.
But Karju says she doesn't enjoy the sauna for any scientific reason, but something deeper and more personal.
And you just relax here.
Martella, too, says the path to happiness isn't any checklist of ideal activities, but an individual decision about what truly matters to us.
We have been given this unique life to live, and it would be like quite sad if we only would follow in external pressures on doing things that other people want us to do, like living somebody else's dream instead of our own dream.
A suggestion to find your own definition of contentment from a place that is happily gone its own way. For CBS Saturday Morning, Brooke Silva Braga.
So this right here makes me think of a life-changing line that the author of The Year of Living Danishly wrote in her book. And I know I keep bringing up that book. Obviously, it's not about Finland, but I do think there's a lot of overlap. She said that Danish people, so in this case, Finnish people, it's not so much that you set realistic expectations and that's why you feel content within your life. It's more so that you set high expectations that are also realistic. And it's a very subtle distinction to make, but I've been thinking about it ever since I read that part of the book. And that's one of those things I'm going to take with me wherever I go. Having high expectations that are also realistic and achievable. Expectations that you can reverse engineer and actually break down into bite-sized, manageable steps to achievement. And something else that I feel like Finnish society understands very well is this principle known as the Stockdale paradox, or maybe the Stocksdale paradox. I read this in a book called Good to Great. It's a business book, but basically the principle is instead of being an optimist like a lot of Americans are or aspire to be, you are a realist with an optimistic undercurrent, if that makes sense. So in other words, you accept the brutal facts of reality and you confront the brutal facts of reality, but then you have high but realistic expectations that involve you prevailing over those brutal facts in the end. And I feel like that's something that not even just Finland, but a lot of those Nordic societies, a lot of European societies in general, seem to have a better grasp of than American society.